It's been a year and a half since President Trump launched a trade war against Canada. And we've seen very real impacts on businesses, on the number of Canadians coming to the North Country, and just on the relationships between our two long, close cultures. That relationship is about to be tested again, as new 50% tariffs are about to take effect. We talk with North Country business people on both sides of the border on today's Story of the Day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Pearsall Wealth Management of Raymond James, Glens Falls, offering financial planning and investing advice to clients for over 40 years. Raymond James Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Thursday, August 13th. First up, New York may sue the federal government over a plan for immigration agents to use gloves that deliver an electric shock. The Trump administration plans to spend millions of dollars for ICE agents to get gloves that are like a handheld taser. They deliver an electric shock when an officer puts their hand on a person's skin. New York State Attorney General Letitia James said yesterday the technology appears to violate the law and the Constitution.
Of course we are outraged, and in the event that a New Yorker is injured as a result of these gloves, obviously there will be a private right of action as well as action from the state of New York. You can best be assured of that.
Governor Kathy Hochul said the state is studying the issue and could sue.
That appears to me on its face to be a violation of civil rights, to cause that kind of physical harm to an individual, regardless of what the offense may be.
A manual for the device says it's not to be used on children, seniors, pregnant women, and people with severe disabilities. The manual says the device is safe if used properly, but it can also increase blood pressure, heart rates or rhythms, breathing, or other factors that can cause sudden death. The state's utilities are hoping New York regulators will allow them to generate power themselves instead of relying on independent producers. As Samuel King with the New York Public News Network reports, some say that might not be the best idea for ratepayers.
The state forced utilities to sell power plants in the 1990s to help boost competition in energy markets. Now, the Public Service Commission is considering whether to allow the companies to generate wind and solar power. The utilities say it would help meet the state's climate goals and shore up the electric grid. Ari Pesco is the executive director of the Electricity Law Initiative at Harvard Law School. He says it's unclear what the change would mean for energy costs.
So a lot of this is about, who bears the risk from projects that don't turn out the way the developer intended. And when utilities build projects, they put the risk on the public.
The change faces opposition from the Independent Power Producers of New York, which has launched a six-figure campaign to fight it. There's no timeline on when state regulators could make a decision. In Albany, I'm Samuel King for the New York Public News Network.
A Schenectady-based news group has acquired two North Country weekly newspapers. The sale of the Tupper Lake Free Press and the Governor Tribune Press to the Gazette News Group was finalized last week. Dan McClellan has owned both papers for decades. He told the Adirondack Daily Enterprise that he was months away from closing them when he connected with the leader of the news group. He will continue to write and edit the Free Press, which will still go out on Wednesdays. The Tribune will continue to go out on Fridays. According to the Enterprise, the paper's layout will change and they'll get brand new websites, but the content should stay the same. There'll be more regional coverage and additions like puzzles. This move further expands the Gazette News Group's footprint in the North Country. The organization purchased the Adirondack Daily Enterprise and the Lake Placid News in March. President Donald Trump announced last month that he's imposing 50% tariffs on many Canadian goods, from cheese and wine to building materials like plywood and cement. They're scheduled to take effect this Wednesday, unless the two countries strike a deal before that date. As Richard Heller reports, uncertainty surrounding these tariffs is already putting businesses in the North Country under stress.
The scent of sawdust, diesel fumes, and cedar sap hangs in the air at a lumber yard in Rensselaer Falls, a small hamlet in St. Lawrence County, just 15 miles south of the Canadian border. Two younger men are loading narrow white pine boards onto the forks of a small loading machine. They slip thin strips of wood between the boards to create air gaps. This business, JP Building Supply, stores and sells all types of building materials and gets about a third of its supply from Canada. That includes sheathing like plywood, which is threatened with a tariff that could double the import cost. Matthew Morse from Norfolk is strapping down a bundle of white pine. He says he's not concerned about the tariffs himself.
It'll allow for more commerce in the country and not outsourcing to other countries. You know what I'm saying? It's trying to start giving our own companies business.
But his boss, James Putman, the owner of the business, says that if these tariffs really do move forward, they are in trouble.
I mean, that's going to affect us tremendously. I mean, if things bump up 50%, that means we have to add on 50%. Because we've got to obviously, we got to put it on to the customer, and that's just going to push everything else up.
For the past year and a half, the Trump administration has aggressively tariffed Canada. But after the Supreme Court ruled in February that Trump didn't have the authority to impose certain tariffs by executive order, the government had to refund around $100 billion. Now it's imposing new tariffs under a different provision that had never been used before by a U.S. president. Across the border in Canada, Hank Vetter is a sales manager at the Wood Source, a lumber business in Ottawa that ships 60% of its product to the U.S. He says the threat of these tariffs alone already impacts his U.S. customers like home builders and contractors.
They say, hey, if that 50% is coming in, I need to do one of two things. I'm going to either order today before the tariffs kick in, or then I'm going to wait until there's relief in those tariffs.
Vetter says these tariffs are causing a domino effect, raising import costs on specific items, which then pushes companies to raise all of their prices.
So then that affects the contractor because he's trying to get this house built on time for his customer. And then that affects the supply chain because if the contractor is not ordering the material, then the supply chain is weakened.
In central New York, A.J. Warmoth owns a dairy farm and also chairs the Northeast Dairy Producers Association. He hopes the U.S. and Canada reach a better trade deal. But existing tariffs, like on steel and aluminum, stacked with the uncertainty, have already created economic pressure.
So a lot of people are building barns, a lot of people are investing in their operations. It just raises the cost on everything. Cement, steel, those costs have escalated exponentially.
These new tariffs cover a slew of items coming out of Canada. Everything from chandeliers to ice skates to dairy and alcohol. Amy Magnus is a customs broker based in St. Albans, Vermont, and helps businesses calculate tariffs when shipping across the border. She says she's never seen anything like this before in her 40 years of experience.
I am telling my customers, please check the lists and see if you have any products that appear on those lists. If you do have, let's say, all these shipments of ice skates that you want to bring into the United States, bring them in right now.
Tourism and cross-border traffic between the two countries have dropped dramatically in the North Country since Trump started imposing new tariffs in his second term. Magnus says she's concerned that these new heightened tariffs will deepen a wound between Canada and the U.S.
The people in the North Country area enjoyed going back and forth to Canada, for example, to go to Montreal and all that it provides in terms of theater or sporting events or shopping or fine dining, all those things.
She says the North Country and Canada have always had a warm relationship.
And they've enjoyed our mountains or, for skiing or our beaches along the lake. I think that there's a chill in that friendliness that we've all shared.
Inside a hardware store in Ogdensburg, Ernest McEthron from Governor says these tariffs are painful. Half of his family lives in Canada.
I have a reunion coming up at the first part of August. I'm not even going to the reunion because I don't dare cross the border.
This trade war has already had an impact, shutting down local businesses and hiking costs. But it's also sharpening the risk of further dividing communities at the border. Hank Vetter from the Wood Source in Ottawa says he believes the U.S. and Canada need to support each other, not build walls that shut out trade and community. Richard Haller, North Country Public Radio.
We have more news all the time on our website, ncpr.org. Music today by B Children of Canton and Evan Veenstra of Gananoque, Ontario. I'm David Summerstein, North Country Public Radio.